Live from Grass Valley, California, this is Ensemble TV.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today for Ensemble Design's inaugural webinar from our new studios in Grass Valley, California. Today we're going to be talking about one of our most popular products, the Bright-Eye Mitto Scan Converter. We'll be looking at the physical connectors and how to use them, what they're for, the GUI and how to optimize the different menus and different settings for your facility, and we'll be looking at a lot of different applications. Now today we're going to be looking for your comments, your feedback, and your questions, so please make sure and chat with us or call us if you have any questions. And now to Chris for a look at the physical connectors.
Hi, this is Chris Merrick with Ensemble Designs, and today I'm going to talk about how to hook up the Mitto in your facility. The Mitto's got several connectors on the back. This is the input where you would hook your computer to it. This is a loop through where you would hook the output of the Mitto to a monitor. And if you are hooked up VGA, this output would be VGA. If you're hooked up DVI, this output would be DVI. Now if you want to feed a VGA signal to the Mitto, you'd use this small adapter that converts VGA to DVI. You simply put it on the back and it would then adapt the cable to the back of the Mitto. And through the software you would select the different modes that you want the Mitto to be in. The Genlock input connectors here takes tri-level sync or black burst input. The serial digital outputs are here, which can be configured as SD, HD, or 3G. And this is the composite out connector here. This composite out connector can be configured as picture or AES. And if the Mitto is in SD mode, it outputs picture. If the Mitto is in HD mode, it outputs black. The last two connectors that we're worried about is the audio input connector. That is simply a 1/8" mini jack that can either input 2 channels of analog audio or 4 channels of AES, and the RS-232 port on the back of the Mitto, which allows you to recall memory registers and GPI inputs. And don't forget the USB connector to allow you to interface the Mitto to Bright-Eye Mac or Bright-Eye PC. There's one last detail that we can talk about is there's a HDMI to DVI adapter which allows you to simply plug that on the back of the Mitto and you can hook up an HDMI signal either in or out of the Mitto depending on how you have things configured. Thanks for watching. Remember, Mitto is the best quality, the best looking scan converter you can buy out there, and with this simple hookup, you're going to make the best pictures. Thanks for watching.
Wow, Chris, that was great information. Thank you so much. Now remember, we're looking to get questions and chat from you, so please contact us at any time during the webinar. Now we're going to take a moment and look at the different GUIs and see how to optimize the Mitto for your facility.
Hi, this is Chris Merrick again, and I'm going to walk through the menus on the Mitto for a few minutes here and show you some of the features that are available on this product. So the very first menu is the position menu. This menu is used to size and position the output window. If you notice, this gray or blue area represents the input resolution. This is the selected output resolution. If I hit full screen, this will select the whole source on the computer and output that on the HD output. I can zoom or size the window. That makes it the selected area smaller. I can use the position controls to move that around. And there's these snap to buttons that allow you to snap the edges or snap the size. There's also some default buttons here to default the zoom depending on where you want that to be. The aspect ratio is controlled here. So if your output format is 16 by 9 and you select 16 by 9, then the raster will fill the screen. If you select 4 by 3, the pixel aspect ratio on the computer is going to be 4 by 3, and if our output's 16 by 9, then it's going to pillar box. But the good thing here is that we cannot make bad geometry. We're always going to have pixel for pixel representation from the computer screen on the output. So if we happen to be in SD and we wanted a 4 by 3 aspect ratio, then this would fill the screen. If we were in SD and we selected 16 by 9, then this would be a letterbox output. And of course there's a manual mode, so that if I wanted to distort the, or not distort, but adjust the selection area, it's going to then letterbox or pillar box accordingly. It's not going to distort the geometry. So there's one more control here in the position menu called the sharpness control, and that's adjustable between 1 and 8. And 4 is pretty good setting. Everything's nice and sharp. You can go a little bit sharper, and you can go a little softer if you have some video output that you want to filter a small amount. The input menu, this is where you select which type of input you want the back of the Mitto to select. There's DVI and VGA. In DVI mode, it's completely automatic, and when you hook it up to a computer, it will then select the input format that is being output from the computer. So our example right here, it's 1920 by 1080, and it says it has an input. If I switch it to VGA mode, we then have to select the VGA resolution with this control. So I can pick 1280 by 1024. I would now go over to the configuration of the PC or Mac and select its output to be 1280 by 1024. It will then say locked and show me an input width and height here. The input menu is also where you select your reference source, your Genlock source. Audio mixer, this is where you select the or mix and assign the channels for the various inputs to various output controls, and this is where you also get indication as to what the level of the audio is. Proc menu, this is where you can adjust the video chroma setup and hue of the incoming video. This is really handy if you got a Skype video that it has a little washed out or the contrast isn't quite good. You can adjust the gain up and bring the pedestal down, give it a little more contrast, or if there's not much color, you can add some more color to it. Timing menu, pretty basic, where you're going to adjust the horizontal and vertical timing in time with reference. The audio configuration menu, pretty straightforward. This is where you select again the source of the incoming audio, either analog, AES, or DVI, and then whether or not you want it to embed it in the serial output. We can turn it off, turn it on to group 1, 2, 3, or 4. And this is where you set the levels for analog input and the reference levels for the indicators and peaking. Built into the Mitto is audio delay, so you can adjust that all the way from 0 to looks like 1 second. And that will let you compensate for some inherent delay in your stream so that the audio will match the video. Config, these are just standard configurations for the operational modes of the Mitto. There's whether or not you want it to automatically go to a certain input format, whether or not you want to be anamorphic or not, a few other register settings. And the output menu. This is where you're going to set up the output format for the Mitto, whether or not you want it to be in HD or SD or 3G. When you're in HD, which HD format do you want? And whether or not you're in the standard NTSC or standard PAL setting. This is also where you can turn on and off the test pattern generator that's built into the Mitto for troubleshooting. And there's a BNC on the back of the Mitto that you can switch back and forth between composite and audio output. So this is where you adjust that control. Okay, the last menu is the memory register. What this allows you to do is preset the screen position of the position back here where you have settings for the size and position. The memory register will save only those things, the position and zoom, and I believe the filter settings for the Mitto. So for example, if you had it zoomed way in, you could save that as register 1, and then you could zoom back out and save that as register 2, and when you click on these registers, and it will recall the position of the window and the zoom. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.
Now you might have asked yourself, why did Ensemble Designs decide to make a scan converter? We asked ourselves that as well. We had been approached many times and had thought that there were enough scan converters on the market and there was really nothing that we could do differently. But we were approached by one of our representatives, Techno House in Japan, and they convinced us that we had something really important to bring to the table. We were going to come at it from a broadcaster's perspective rather than from a computer point of view. So there were some things that we could do differently. One of them was we made sure to include 3G videos so that it would be, no matter what direction your facility was taking, you would be covered. So we're covering 3G, HD, SD, and composite. We handled the audio embedding properly. There are 3 different ways that you can bring your audio in, and you can properly sync it to your facility, time the video and audio, get rid of any lip sync issues, and so that, that's something that's really important to broadcasters. Another thing that we did was we did a lot. We know that there's a different number of pixels in a computer than there are in the video, so we needed to make sure we did as much horizontal as vertical filtering so that we wouldn't have any flicker and no loss of detail. We don't have to lose sharpness in order to get rid of that flicker. So those are the things that we feel like we've done really well. And our first customer of the product, they have a military application, and here to tell us about that is our own Jay Warner. Jay?
Hi, Mondae.
Hi, Jay. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Yes, they were doing military mapping.
Good. So our first customer now, we know that they purchased 250-ish units, very nice order. But we can't say who they are, of course, because it is a military application, but we can talk about what they're doing. So Jay, can you tell us about that?
Right. You mentioned they needed 3G. What they're doing is they're bringing in the computer-generated video and running it through their router throughout their facility on campus.
Okay.
They're taking the video out of the computer into just a standard video monitor in meeting rooms to run seminars. Well, the criteria, it had to be on this monitor as good as it is on their computer-generated slides. They were very, for engineering analysis, they had to have the sharpness in the edges as well as in the center of the picture. And as you mentioned, the scaling had to be proper.
Right, and that looks incredible. I mean, you can read those small city names and you can see the Asian characters very clearly.
That was huge for them, was being able to resolve the Asian characters.
Right, because there's no ringing around them, like you said, and you can see them very clearly. That's
and also
beautiful.
They're using a lot of Bright Eye 72s to be able to display on their consumer-grade monitors and still get a great picture. See, as you bring it in, you're still seeing the Asian characters very, very clearly. All the details of the map is very, very well reproduced.
Excellent. That's a great use of the product and very, outside of the box. If you think about it, I mean, I think there are probably a lot of different applications that might be able to take advantage of that, like perhaps medical or
medical. Again, the traffic cameras and things like that are all. Anytime you have a scientific application, usually there's detail involved.
Right, because you need all the gradations of color. You need to be able to represent that faithfully. So,
yes, and then we had another customer come to us this summer. It was a NOAA vessel called Okeanos, which is based in Seattle, and they were off the coast of Indonesia, and they were trying to map the bottom of the ocean floor.
Oh, wow, how exciting.
Yeah. And so the data that they get that's produced by the sonar arrays on board have to be then disseminated throughout the world.
Right, because it's important that they get the information immediately, because it would be obviously very expensive to send a submarine back to gather the information if they didn't get what they needed.
They can't get all those scientists on board, too.
Right.
So they were, too, concerned with scaling and up conversion, and then, again, the clearness and sharpness. This is an image that they did coming from, coming back from this exposition. This is actually the ship swath that it makes going across the ocean floor, and you can see all the different color gradations that the sonars produce. And then at the bottom, here's a graph. I don't know what it means, but what I can see are all the numbers.
Right, and those lines you can see.
They're dotted.
They're dotted lines. I don't know if you can clearly see that on your computer screens at home, but it's incredible, the detail.
Right, and so that's what they were looking for. And I have a quote from the customer.
Oh, great. Share, please.
Okay, it says, they always knew that the scan converters they were using were bad, but they never really knew just how bad they were until they saw the Mitto in action. They were blown away by the sharpness and the no loss of detail, the ease of scaling, the ProcAmp features that Mitto delivers, and that those are the engineers on board the ship.
Wow.
That's quite a testament.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So,
Jay, it's funny, we have a text here from your dad. He says hello.
Hi, Dad.
Glad he's watching. Thank you for joining us, Jay.
Okay, bye.
Well, it looks like we have a few questions. I'm going to look at those in just a moment. But right now, we're going to talk about branding your message. It's important with all the different demographics and age groups out there. Some people feel more comfortable watching their news on the internet. Some people prefer to get it on their phone. Some people really use Facebook extensively or LinkedIn. People are emailing, and there, of course, is the traditional television broadcast. And in order to integrate all those demographics and all those different media outlets, it's important to have a cohesive message and to be able to show all those different parts of your broadcast in different ways. So one of the great ways that you can use the Mitto is with Facebook. And here you're able to choose the portion of the screen using the screen select tool, just the portion of the screen that you want to show. So if for some reason you don't want to show these advertisements here on the side, we can easily exclude those. If there's a comment on the screen that you don't want to show, if you only want to show a certain thing, you can definitely resize that and show that as well. Another application, that you might want to use with this is viewer email. Now, we know that we might not want to show somebody's email address because that could be a liability concern. So if for some reason your system shows email addresses, you can choose to exclude that information. So here, we'll watch as I change where that's showing. It's a little awkward from this side angle. I'm sorry, I'm not getting it quite right, but you get the idea. And you see that the email looks very authentic. It's not somebody retyping something, just a quote. You're not sure if something was excluded or added. It's very clear that this is authentic and from a real customer. And wow, look at those nice things they had to say about us. I bet you can read that small type because the Mitto does such a great job of up conversion. Another way that you might want to continue branding and having that cohesive message is to use your own web page on your broadcasts. This happens to be a customer of ours. It's Monmouth University. They are using our Mitto product in their production classes. But this will allow them to take information that's on their website and be able to broadcast it on their daily broadcasts. And I'm sure you can imagine all the different ways that that can be used. Now, you know that we have to pay for our new studio somehow. So we're going to be back in just a moment after a short commercial break.
YouTube, Skype, weather radar, do you need to broadcast these sources? Absolutely the best way to do that is with the new Bright Eye Mitto scan converter from Ensemble Designs. Just plug in your computer into the Bright Eye Mitto and then take Mitto's video outputs into your production switcher or router. You simply use the selection tool to select the area that you want to convert, and the Mitto does the rest. Scaling, filters, audio embedding, these capabilities and more are standard on the Bright Eye Mitto scan converter, and everything is easily controllable from a PC or Mac application. Or you can use the local controls on the front of the Mitto. DVI or VGA inputs, gen lockable, video outputs, computer loop-through, everything you need is right there on the back. And it's easy to time into house. Bright Eye Mitto, all of the detail, none of the flicker, from Ensemble Designs.
That was fun. So we do have a question from Doug Aldrich of Visual Sound. He asks, what happens if you scroll the web image behind the selected scaled section? Let's take a look at that. You can see that I have a portion of the screen selected. It's the same picture that we were looking at before. And now I'm just going to use my mouse to scroll through that. So whatever is inside of that selection tool is what's going to be broadcast on air. Oops. Excuse me. So I hope that answers your question. And now for one of the most popular applications for the Mitto product, YouTube, is our own Robert Nunez. Robert? Hi, Robert. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know this weekend you were traveling and you were visiting a television station in Austin, Texas. Can you tell us how they're using the Mitto?
Yes. Every morning from 6 to 7, they broadcast the radio station on air.
Okay.
Yeah.
So two DJs talking to each other?
Yes.
Okay, like Mike and Mike in the Morning, something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they have 7 cameras in the studio, and they have 8 feeds coming back. The 8th feed is the Mitto.
Okay, and so what do they use that Mitto for?
Basically, when they're talking about a certain subject, they can bring up any picture of it on their computer, and they can actually switch to it on the broadcast so the viewer at home can see what they're talking about.
Did you get to see them do that this weekend?
Yes, I did.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, the one DJ was talking about how his dog was talking to him in the morning.
Okay.
And of course, the other DJ was given a bad time. So quickly, he brought a YouTube video up of a dog talking.
Something like this?
Something just like that.
Mishka, the singing husky, I think he's pretty famous. We all know him.
And he simply used a Mitto Magic button.
Oh, let's talk about the Mitto Magic. What is that?
Basically, it's a bookmark that's available from our website. And
Okay.
it's a one-button click that actually grabs the YouTube video.
Not sure if you can see this or not, but there is the Mitto Magic, and I'm going to select it, and it's automatically going to resize the window to the video portion of the YouTube screen. Great. So they really like being able to do that. It really adds some flavor and some instantaneous, because I know on those radio shows they have to be really impulsive, or they have to be quick and
On the fly.
unlike what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, they're able to do things on the fly. They're able to bring up YouTube videos or pictures on the fly as they're talking.
And the DJs can do that themselves.
Exactly. It's that easy to use.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing, Robert.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, so another application for this product is weather radar. Now, I was actually at a customer site in Baltimore, Maryland. We were going into a conference room to demonstrate the Mitto for the first time to these chief engineers. And they wanted me to pull up their website, and on their website was their weather radar, and they thought that would be a great test to see how well the product upconverted. And as we're looking at it, they're feeding it just to a consumer monitor, in a very large one in the teleconference area. And they were amazed, and they told me that it actually looked better than their own weather radar output. So let's take a look at that. This is a local television station, KCRA, and this is what they call Futurecast. And it's just a representation of what the weather's going to be for the next couple of hours. And I believe that you can probably see the detail, that there you can see the city names still, and you can see the relief information on the map. And this is it's a faithful representation of the way the internet is playing it. Okay, let me see if we have any more questions. So we have a question from Steve. What about controlling Mitto remotely? I recall a discussion where the USB could be connected to an RJ45 connector and then accessed over a LAN or WAN. Can you please explain how this would work? And that would be to use the USB connector can be bridged on an Ethernet network using an adapter. And those are just simple USB to Ethernet adapters. And that way you can control it from any Ethernet controllable device in your building. Okay, so, something that's going to become huge. Skype recently launched a full-up app for smartphones that allows you to use Skype instantaneously on your smartphone. So somebody in a studio could have a computer and a Mitto, and anywhere in the world, anyone with a smartphone could instantly relay information to them, and that could be broadcast immediately. So whether they were using the Skype to show what's happening, if there's something, emergency or something crazy happening, if it's citizen reporting, or if they need to do an interview, perhaps in a situation where there isn't another computer available to use regular Skype. This just continues to add to the flexibility of the product and the ability to use it in so many different ways. So we're going to actually make a Skype call right now, and we're going to contact one of our favorite reps. His name is Frank Miley. Let me go to the Skype page. Bring this window up here, and I will call him. Frank. There you are.
Here I am.
Hi, Frank. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
Good. I'm going to readjust my window so I get a bigger picture of you.
I didn't think that was possible.
Oh, now. Frank, thanks so much for helping us out today and demonstrating how easy it is to broadcast Skype. Anybody could do this. So, will you tell me about one of your favorite demos that you've done with the Mitto?
Well, there's a lot to choose from.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad to know you've been busy.
The broadcast applications, I think we all are aware of. We've certainly been talking about them this morning. But one that I found interesting was in the House of Worship market.
Ah.
This is a growing market, I think, for everyone out there. And the proliferation of video in churches has become huge.
So when you did your demo with the church, how did you incorporate the Mitto into their facility?
Well, this particular application, they sponsor groups of missionaries, and they communicate with those missionaries during their services so that they can report back to the congregation. And they do it via Skype, in some cases via smartphone.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, so this is really useful for them.
Well, it certainly increases the quality of what the people are able to see in the congregation.
Yes, because we can see how wonderful you look. You look great, Frank. Thank you. But you were telling me also about another application that you thought this was going to be useful for, something about conferencing?
Well, yeah, again, earlier this week, Skype announced that they're going to go into the conferencing business so that we can get considerably more in a group. And for business applications, this certainly could make this a much more worthwhile experience if you're going into large projections, etc.
Well, I think some of the uses of Skype are apparent. Obviously, you don't have to fly somebody in to do an interview. We didn't have to have Frank come in here to tell us about his demo. That's obvious. That multiplies the number of people that you have out on the street so that citizens can be reporters from anywhere. Again, the conferencing like you're talking about. Now, I know a lot of times out in the field, they don't have access to a computer, so perhaps they put a graphic up on the screen and then they have this symbol of a telephone. And you just don't get that connection with the person that's talking. You don't see their facial expressions or the inflection. You don't necessarily get that connection with them. So I think this is going to be a really valuable tool.
Oh, absolutely.
And as web connections and internet connections and the 3G and 4G networks continue to improve, I think we'll be able to get service from anywhere in the world. So this is really going to revolutionize how quickly things can be broadcast.
That's right.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Frank.
Thank you, Mondae.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay. All right. Well, I have a whole bunch of questions here, but I'm going to take a moment to look at those in just a second. But right now I want to talk to you about a competitive product of ours. And they make themselves sound a lot like us. They really do. And they even start with the same initial. I'm going to show you the main difference between them and us. This is a representation of a typical desktop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my selection tool, well, I'm going to try, so that I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Here, hold on just a second. Let me use one of my memory registers. Ah, great. Resize the window for me. Now I'm going to choose the portion of the video that I want to output to the screen. And that looks beautiful. Look at all the detail in that. And this is just a typical 360p YouTube video. And we're going out all the way to the edges, the details maintained. We're doing great up conversion and scaling. Now, when you take a look at the competitive product, again, they sound a lot like us. Let me look here. Oops. Sorry. There we go. So what they do, they also have a selection tool. And you move the selection tool around here, and it chooses the portion of the video that you want to output, but they don't upconvert or scale it. So all they do is put black around the picture. And you can see that's a really big difference. And I encourage you to try the products for yourself and see the difference. Okay, now for the premiere of the Ensemble Designs jingle.
It's the video we choose. 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 Here you go. You got the cool. You got the cool Mitto. You got the cool. You got the cool Mitto.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And that was really cool. So we have a couple of questions here. One is from Jody Dressner. He's our distributor in Israel. And he asks, will there be a Mitto Magic for Browser Explorer and Fox Pro? I think it is only available for Safari in a Mac. And I think that's true at this point. Oh no, it's not true. I see somebody shaking their head no. So I'm going to have to get back to you on the answers. Maybe somebody can text me. Oh, I'll use my shout out, my mobile shout out. I'm going to call David Wood and talk to him. Can somebody dial David for me, please? I'm in sales. I'm supposed to know this stuff, right?
This is David Wood.
David, this is Monday. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today.
You're welcome.
Oh, it's so good to hear your voice.
I've been watching it. Look, you look great and sound good. So well done.
Thank you so much. Now, I don't know if you heard that last question. Obviously, I don't have the latest information. We're making so many changes to the product and adding features so quickly, I can't even keep up with them.
Right. So you were asking about how the Mitto Magic feature works?
Well, they were asking if it's going to be supported in Fox Pro and Explorer rather than just Safari.
Right, and I think when people say Fox Pro, they may be thinking about Firefox and so forth. So the answer is it's already supported across several different browsers. And part of how Mitto Magic works is it has knowledge of how specific websites are constructed.
Okay.
So, for example, you were doing a demo where it would find automatically the YouTube window, right?
Correct.
And that's something that we think people are going to want to use a great deal.
Yeah, for Skype and for other things as well.
Sure. So that's one of the ones that's been incorporated. And we're adding more and more website specifics. What we have to do is we have to look into the inside of the website and get information from it that tells us where the window is placed on screen, and that's how the Mitto magic works.
Right, so that when you write the bookmark or the applet, you're determining coordinates of the video window inside of those different browsers.
That's right. And so the task for us then is we did YouTube first because that's the one that has a huge usership, if you will.
Obviously, right.
And as people identify other websites that they're going to be using frequently, we will endeavor to provide the same sort of feature.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being my mobile shout-out and saving me here.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
All right, talk to you later.
Okay. If there happen to be, there are a lot of questions here, so if there happen to be any that I don't get to during the show, I'll be sure to answer them and post those answers somewhere where everybody can view them if I happen to miss one of them here. So to speak about the last application that we're going to talk about today is our own Ron Chubb. Ron.
Good morning, Monday.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good.
Good. We have a facility down in Florida, WFSU in Tallahassee, that is utilizing the Mitto in a very unique way.
There is something to do with backpack broadcasting. This is a term we've been hearing a lot about.
That's correct. They utilize the Go system by Viewcast, although there are many other systems out there. They send out their reporters into the field following the Assembly and Congress personnel of local and in their local areas, talking to constituents.
Right. Okay. And so their objective is that what their goal is to bring as much political information to their local constituents as possible.
That is correct.
So do they follow local congressmen or is it their state congressmen?
It's their state and local politicians.
Okay.
They follow into the field when they're out talking with their constituents about local issues that are relative to the local areas.
And they're a public broadcasting?
Yes, they are. They're connected with the State Florida University.
Right, so they probably don't have a gigantic budget.
That's correct. This allows them to send many people out into the field where they don't have the budget to man 20 or 30 vans and the staff to staff those.
Right, and we know that mobile vans are very important for specific events, but this does allow people to get reporters everywhere. Essentially with one person with a camera and a reporter, you have a small mobile van. And you can send information over the wireless network to a broadband server, and then you would use the Mitto in the studio to take that information off of that server and broadcast it.
That is correct, and then they send the either 3G or HD video out of the Mitto throughout their facility, ingest that into their normal file servers and broadcast it from there.
Excellent. So now but you were also telling me that if they are having a slow news day, if the congressman, if it's bad weather and the congressmen don't go out, what do they do?
They utilize the internet and the Mitto again, and what they'll do is in the slow news days, as you said, they'll go to C-SPAN, and what they'll do is scrape the video from there, and that's a new term that I hadn't been familiar with, pulling the information off of C-SPAN and filling in those slow news days with information from there.
Right, so I'm trying to bring up some information from C-SPAN. There we go.
Great.
So I'm sure, as you know, that this is really low quality video that C-SPAN has on here because they're trying to play so much information and reach such a large audience. They have rather low res videos on here, but you can see how good the quality is. Considering, we're certainly not making it any worse, and we're definitely making it better as we upscale it and convert it.
Correct.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with us about backpack broadcasting in general?
It's a relatively new technology, as you said. We're working with several different manufacturers of the broadcast systems, and I think this is going to add a huge advantage to the smaller networks and smaller stations throughout the country.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us today, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, good. It looks like we have somebody answering chat questions for you, too. Again, if I missed any of them, I'm very sorry. I want to thank you for joining us today on our webinar. If you have interesting and unusual applications when you're using your Mitto, please share them with us, and we'll feature you on a future webinar. Thanks for joining us.